Hey friend, my name is Bryce Henson, CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp and one of your co-hosts here at the Fit Body Inside Look. Now this show is for our franchise partners and for those who are interested in joining our brand, where we execute meaningful interviews with our franchise partners, internal HQ team, coaches and clients to be able to provide you more insight and to get more acquainted with our brand and also to showcase the business opportunity available. Thanks so much and enjoy the episode.
What's up, friends? Welcome back to another episode of the Fit Body Inside Look. I'm your host, Jake Stewart. In today's episode, I sit down with Matt. He is a really awesome Fit Body owner, been in the brand for almost a decade. I'm really excited for you guys to hear his story. Without further ado, let's get to it. Hey friends, welcome back to the show. I'm sitting down with Mr. Matt Espeut today, so excited to get to know you, to get to know your story. Matt, thank you so much for taking some time.
Hey man, it's my pleasure. I'm grateful to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you and excited to kind of hear your story of business ownership. I know you've been in the Fit Body brand for a long time, but before we get to any of that stuff, let's just talk it through. So kind of introduce yourself. You know, how long have you had a Fit Body location and where are you guys located?
Yeah, my name is Matt Espeut, and I'm from Providence, Rhode Island, and that's where my location is. And I opened my location in September of 2014, so 10 years in September I've been in business.
Wow, man. Congratulations. That's really awesome. Like something I always like to bring up, like all the owners that I've been interviewing lately in the last couple episodes have all been like, 6-7 years plus. That's really incredible. Most small businesses don't make it past that like 3-year mark, that 5-year mark. Like it's really hard. And especially, obviously, as you know, in the last 10 years, a little thing called COVID came around and you weathered the storm and made it through. And we'll talk about all those kind of trials and tribulations and all the things that got you to where you are today as one of the most successful owners in the brand, which I think is really awesome. So accolade to you for sure. But let's go back. Let's backtrack a little bit and just talk about your fitness story. So, what does fitness look like for you in your life? Like kind of in your childhood, growing up into your teen years and then into your adulthood. So what does fitness look like for you?
Well, I played high school football, so a bunch of us used to go to the YMCA to lift weights, and that consisted of a universal machine. We used to leave the Y, hit the soda machine on the way out, grab an orange soda and some pretzels, and that was about the knowledge I've had, up until, I graduated from high school. So that was my fitness journey. Then a buddy of mine who started working out went up to me one day and said, you're kind of skinny. Maybe you should start lifting weights. That set off a light, and I was like, you know what? I don't like being called skinny. So I joined him at some local gym, and we started lifting weights. At 19 years old, I started. And at the time, a mainstay of my program was weed, coke, and, cigarettes, right? Oh, wow. So I lived, I was a metalhead. I lived that rock and roll lifestyle. Even though I wasn't, playing in a band, I still hung around with a lot of people that were in bands, and we'd go to concerts and party, and that was pretty much my life. And, again, that's when he told me that I looked skinny, so I started working out. And, working out had some benefits, especially, being a metalhead and being in the mosh pit, and the bigger you were, the better you prevailed at the end of the night. So I started then, and I remember one day being outside the gym and about to light up a cigarette, and I said, what am I doing here? Like, I'm into fitness, and I'm still smoking cigarettes because I had an addictive personality. And, I got very easily addicted to that, non-healthy lifestyle. So when I started working out, I went all in and got addicted to the feeling, the pump. And, people started saying, wow, man, you've been working out, you look a little bigger. So again, back to the cigarette story, I remember taking the pack of cigarettes, crumbling them up. I didn't care much about the environment and littering at the time, and I threw the pack of cigarettes on the ground and never looked back with the cigarettes. And so then it's when I kind of like really made the shift with my health and fitness lifestyle. I was living at home at the time, so my mom would make me like big meals, and like I'd eat like 3 pork chops for dinner, stacked with mashed potatoes. So, my advice in the gym was just eat everything in sight so you can get bigger. Mm-hmm. And, again, I went from being probably a 170-pound kid to, close to 200 pounds in, a couple of years' time. So.
No, that's awesome. Well, that's an incredible story, and something, the biggest takeaway there is just something we tell our clients day in and day out. Fitness really does change your life. So just by going into the gym and working out a little bit, you made the decision to stop smoking and then to stop doing other things and to, to really like go all in on your health and fitness. And I'm sure that also helped your health and fitness, because I'm sure that like made, all the gains and stuff probably happened a lot faster. Your lung capacity goes up, like all that stuff. So I think that's really important. And that's really, really cool that you get to now, as a Fit Body owner, kind of help other people kind of probably that might be in a similar situation that you were. And I think that's really, really awesome. So now that you've found fitness, so you're starting to work out, you're chasing the pump, which I think is really, really awesome. How did you find Fit Body Bootcamp?
Well, that was a long time away from my start fitness. Again, I'm 56 years old now. I started my business at 46. So, from 19 to 46, I was just going around clanging and banging, throwing weights around, and I became a personal trainer. And I was working out in a big box gym, and I used to, watch these guys walking around with the notebook and training people. And I'm like, what are they doing? Like, I didn't know what a personal trainer was at that point. I didn't know that it even existed. And I realized that you can make money actually teaching people how to work out. And because I love working out so much, I felt like, hey man, this is a thing for me, right? So I got my personal trainer certification, and again, working in a box gym for like 20 years as a personal trainer. Yeah, I felt like kind of my hands were tied. Like I can only help so many people working one-on-one. So that's when I decided to seek out another avenue and just figure out a way I can scale my time. And I went to the Fitness Business Summit in 2014, and that was a big plug for Fit Body Bootcamp, obviously at the time. And I gave my deposit on a credit card, my letter of interest or whatever it was. And back then it was much different than it is now.
Totally.
So that's where I first was introduced to Fit Body Bootcamp.
Wow, that's awesome. No, that's a great story. And like, I'm really happy you made that decision to go to that Fitness Business Summit and to go like all in and to join the Fit Body brand. So let's talk about your Fit Body story just a little bit. So I know it's been a long time. It's almost a decade worth of Fit Body that you've been through. So talk me through like, hey, what did that first, year look like? Like what did like getting ready to open the doors kind of look like? Talk us through it.
Well, getting ready to open the doors looked like me being the one-man show, right? So I actually had a picture of me, my first trip to Home Depot, buying all the wood, and I actually built out my location because I had a construction background. So I built out my location with my own hands. Everything but the specialty stuff like the flooring and all that. I had somebody come in and do that. But as far as the main build-out, building the counter, building the locker rooms and the dressing rooms and all that stuff, I personally, by myself, went in and did that. I opened my doors, and I think my dad and my next-door neighbor were my two first people in a session. I knew nothing. I had no business background, which is the reason why I bought Fit Body Bootcamp, because I figured that they'd put some guardrails up for me and they'd guide me to through business ownership, because I really had no business plan. I didn't have a lot of money. It was at the time where the real estate market had crashed and I had a lot of money invested that I lost, and so I just needed a way out of it. So when I went to the Fitness Business Summit, I originally had just planned going to California, seeing if I could find work in California or I could find an idea to bring home to Rhode Island that was non-existent, right? So there were no boot camps in Rhode Island. So that's what, enticed me to start something new. So, again, my ownership journey was opening the doors with a couple of members, kind of relying on HQ to do some marketing and some advertising for me. They kind of channeled us towards different marketing agencies, and I did Groupon was my first launch into it. And I know I was a great coach, but I was not a great businessman. But just by being a great coach provided me with enough resources and tools to deliver a great product. So even though let's talk about the evolution, not only myself, but Fit Body Bootcamp as well. I saw it right from the beginning. They didn't give us the tools that they give us now. So I was still running great sessions. People were still getting great results right from the beginning. So it just kind of morphed, and I grew very quickly my first year. So
that's awesome. No, that's great. And yeah, there definitely has been a lot of like kind of changes along the way. Like I've been in the brand a long time as well. So we definitely are in a much better position now where, we give so many assets, and especially like all new franchise partners get to go to on-site experience where they have like that 3-day training, like in-house inside of an actual open and operating location. And it's just gangbusters. It's awesome because they get to see like what actually owning the business kind of looks like on a day-to-day basis, which is really great. But I want to talk through kind of that first like experience you had when you said you opened the doors and, your only client you said was your dad and your neighbor or something like that. It was just very few. I'm sure you were scared, you invested a lot of your savings, you invested what little money you had, if any, after the real estate market crash. So when was the turning point? So when was the turning point when you realized like, oh, hey, like this is actually starting to turn around. Like this is like, hey, I might actually start making some money here.
Well, because I opened up in September, when I went tax time in that April, I paid an X amount of taxes. And then the next year I grew so much that my accountant was kind of taken by surprise. I never paid my estimate. So at the end of the second year, he's like, oh, by the way, you owe the government like $25,000 in taxes. And he goes, attribute that to your growth. And I was like, well, yeah, thanks a lot. That's basically everything I had on board. So, I just kept plugging and plugging and plugging. And back in the day, I used ClickFunnels and stuff like that, and had people set up like different ClickFunnels for me. And, just watching people come through the doors and just learning how to do sales. And again, I feel that because I wasn't good at sales, I wasn't good at business ownership, that I had to deliver an outstanding product, and the product actually sold itself. So it was like word of mouth. It's kind of tough to remember back to your humble beginnings. I mean, I do remember, where I got my start. I do remember the nights, laying awake and like, is this thing going to work for me here? Like, I just maxed out my credit card, and I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this. I left my job at the big box gym where I was making a lot of money, personal training. Like, so you obviously lay awake at night with self-doubt and not knowing what's going to happen. But just by being disciplined and just by showing up every single day, it morphed into what it is today. So, to give you specifics on exactly how it grew, again, using the Groupon, running some challenges. I had a few people come over from the box gym as members, and they brought friends with them. So, again, a lot of evergreen, organic growth, but also a lot of, marketing and advertising as well. So.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of stuff now that like FitBody does actually provide,
right,
like with
exactly.
those challenges and those different kind of like intro offers and things like that. So that's really awesome that you kind of weathered the storm. So speaking to which, so when you started, you were in the business, you were working really, really hard in the business. Now I'm curious, what does your day-to-day kind of look like now? That you're 10 years down the road, like you're one of the most successful owners in the brand. What does your day-to-day look like? Are you still, at your location all the time? Are you a little bit more hands-off and you kind of trust your leadership team? Like, what does that look like for you?
Well, I'm there because I want to be, not because I have to be. I mean, I do love the whole aspect of, I'm a coach at heart, right? So, the rule of thumb is don't work in your business, work on your business. So, my day-to-day is I get up and, every Monday I run my numbers, right? I do that every Monday, and then once a month I do my monthly numbers, and then obviously do my quarterly numbers. So that's all on me. I write a lot of copy, like, emails and stuff like that. I also implement a lot of the emails that, is provided for us by HQ. So my day-to-day is more or less is delegating what needs to be done, kind of structuring the way the tasks get handled and stuff like that. But I do oversee everything. Like, so, I get notifications for every text message my team sends. I see everything that goes on in the business. So I basically, my day-to-day is overseeing and making sure the operations run smooth. I do still like to coach. I know that's like kind of a taboo thing. Like, if you're a successful owner, you should not be coaching anymore. But that's what I love. That's my passion. That's why I got into fitness, is because I love giving somebody a high five. I love seeing somebody go from, being this, shy person to just like grunting and out on the floor, lifting heavier weights, and, seeing the results as they come too. So like, if you're not there, you can't see the members' results. You can't see, the satisfaction on their face when they walk out the door. So as far as needing to be there, I've been here in California. I'll be like 11 days by the time I go home, and the business has been running pretty well without me there. Although I do still, stay in contact with my team and, make sure we get this done. Like, we got Spirit Week coming up, and so I'm kind of like making sure that, like, hey, make sure you send that reminder out, make sure you do this. Yeah, and again, it's like anything else. Humans, there's always human error, and there's always room for human error. So I just try to oversee that there's not too much of that going on. And, my team is a phenomenal team. I love them like family. But hey, they're human. They still make mistakes too. So, as well as I do. So, it's my whole concept is to make sure things are running smoothly with as little mistakes and as much efficiency as possible.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I feel like, I know you said it's like kind of a taboo subject of like the owner shouldn't be also in their coaching. I actually have a different view of that. I think they should, I think they should be on there. Like, it doesn't have to be in a lot. Like, obviously I don't expect my FitBody owner to be in there all the time and to be coaching, 8 blocks of sessions or anything like that. But like you said, there's no substitute for being there. So not only being there for your clients, but also being there for your coaches. So it's good for the coaches to also see, it's like, hey, Matt knows how hard it is, to be here at 4:45 in the morning. Like, Matt knows he's done it before. He does it on not a regular basis, but he's here, he's in here, he's coaching. He knows how emotionally draining it is. He knows how physically draining it is, and he gets it. And that's really awesome. So speaking like myself, like, I'm not a FitBody owner, seeing my FitBody owner, who was Bryce and now has just transferred over to somebody called Melissa, seeing that like transfer and like having them both where they're in the facility, they're there. I can't imagine a situation, where like my owner was just like almost like a silent investor, where they're just super hands off, and you'd only hear from from them via email or via maybe like a Zoom call every now and again, I just wouldn't feel the same connection that I've always had, especially with Bryce. I've been with him for the better part of my decade that I've been with FitBody. And it's just been so awesome. So I don't think that's necessarily taboo. I think that's a good thing. I think that makes you a really, really strong leader because, again, one, you're setting the standard, you're setting examples, but also you're just being able to have some camaraderie with your team. So a lot of times owners, once they hit that spot where the business is doing good enough that they don't have to be there, they take that as I'm not going to be there anymore. And that's, I feel like, the worst thing to think. And for anybody listening at home, that is an important point. Like, with entrepreneurship, you want to get to the point where you get to choose what you do with your time. But what you do with your time should also be still investing and still working on the business that you have.
Yeah, and let me follow up with that. Whereas if you owned a Starbucks or a Subway or another type of franchise, that's okay to do because it's systemized. It's like, 2 pickles on the sandwich or whatever. Like you can just hire people to fill in and check the box to do that. But when you're in the fitness business, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with their health, you're dealing with emotions. And, it's great to have a team that can carry that out for you. But, I've seen a lot of, I don't say a lot, but I've seen several cases where people think they can be an absentee owner. Like, oh, yeah, okay, this is a business in the box. I'm just going to sign the lease, and then I'm just going to put somebody in the forefront and just back away from it. I truly don't think that that's a good idea, especially being in this type of business. Because, again, you want to be around people. You want to be and feel their health and fitness and, people being out of shape, it's an emotional thing, right? So, and then when they start changing and morphing into the better version of themselves, right? Again, when you're dealing with people and emotions and personalities, just being the owner and sitting in that ivory tower, it's not going to work for this line of work. And as far as me being a leader, my team sees me in there grinding it out. Like I installed, like when the Concept 2 ski machines came in, I was there drilling holes in the wall, putting it in. So I want them to see that. Just because I'm where I'm at, I'm not removed from the situation. I'll see dumbbells out of line. I'll fix them. I'll pick up the vacuum. Still to this day, I'm, because I'm a little OCD with my organization. So I'll go in and I'll organize things. And, I want my team to see that I'm not just like this absentee, point the finger type of owner, that I want to be part of, the overall operation of it.
Yeah, no, and that's totally true. And I mean, hence one of the reasons why you are one of the most successful owners in the brand. But something that you've mentioned a couple of times, and I want to kind of unpack the box here, is you mentioned your team. I've had the absolute pleasure. I've met your team. Your team is incredible. They're freaking rock stars, or fire-breathing dragons, as we like to say. But talk to me a little bit about kind of like finding your team and like some of the things that you do to keep your team, because that's really the most important thing. Is you can find really great people, but if you don't do anything to nurture, if you don't do anything like to help level them up or to provide them with like an ascension ladder of like they can move up the ladder, they're not always stuck being down at the bottom, they'll probably leave, or they'll give you a reason to make them leave, kind of thing. Yeah. So what are some of the things you've done to, like, one, just kind of find your team, but then two, keeping your team?
Well, one of my team members, Allie, she was a member at first, and I think it was pre or just after COVID or whatever, and she became a member, and for some reason I saw something in her. I saw her transformation, and one day I was coaching alone, and I said, "Hey, you want to jump up and do the demos for me?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." And I said, "You ever think of being a coach?" And she's like, "I kind of like, but not a lot of confidence." But I said, "Hey, listen. As long as you have a great personality, I can develop you into a coach, right? It's the skills are the easy part, right? It's just you got to have the character and the personality to do it." So she came on as a coach. The other three, I actually, believe it or not, were Indeed. They answered my ad on Indeed, and they showed up. Like they showed up. One of them showed up with a shirt and tie, and I was like, okay, this kid's definitely serious about this. I mean, I've had guys show up in cut off shirts for a job interview. I'm like, come on, man, I know it's a gym, but like,
still got to dress up a little bit.
Put your best foot forward here. And that's it. And again, through the tryouts, one or two of them, I was like, you got to kind of turn the corner and step this up a little bit if you're gonna remain here. So a couple of them, like I wasn't sure if they were gonna make it, but they showed promise, and they showed the dedication to getting better, and they did. And the question is, how do I keep them? I give them other opportunities to earn, more income in the business, whether it be, we do some personal training on off hours, because when the gym's not being used, why not, right? Why pay rent for a space that's not being used? So I give them opportunities to that, sales commissions and all that different stuff. So, and, on top of it, they know I'm investing in them, right? I invest tens of thousands of dollars a year, sending them to World Conference, to the elite trainings. I encourage them to, jump on a lot of our Zoom trainings and stuff like that. I'm investing in their sales skills. So, and I tell them too that this isn't just practical for what we're doing here. You're going to be able to use these skills in everyday life. I mean, they were on the group, the Julius group on Thursday about customer care, which is a dying dying breed in this
Truthfully,
country
yeah,
here, where
2024
businesses
it is, for
don't invest enough into taking care of their customers, right? So, they see that I invest in them. They see I care about them. We do every once a month when we do our in-person meetings, I buy them lunch or breakfast or whatever it is, and we hang out as a team sometimes outside of the gym, and we do a lot of events together. So, just by giving them that family feel and giving them that security of knowing that they're, I also instill in them that this is not just a job, that they're making a difference, that they're changing somebody's lives, and that's so much more valuable than just going in and punching a clock. Where you can impact somebody. And I show them the messages that we get, like, look at what this person wrote about you, like how great you were to them, and like how much you changed their lives. And that inspires them to move forward. And that's the type of person that we need to have, because if that didn't mean anything, or if that didn't hit a nerve to them, then they're in the wrong field. They're in the wrong business.
100%. No, and I think those are all really awesome points, and something, you do well as a leader, and a lot of the Fit Body leaders that I know, all the franchise partners, do a really good job about having, like, team events and things that's like outside of the gym space, because you need that. Like, it's one thing to see someone at work, it's another thing to see them outside of work. And I feel like that just brings the team closer together. If you have a team that's close together, guess what? They're going to work a little bit better together. They're going to work a little bit more seamlessly. I always like to joke around with my coworker, Mr. John Gilbo, my man, shout out John. Like, we can talk telepathically because we know each other so well. We see each other all the time. We go to all the different events. We're obviously always at the World Conference and elite trainings and things like that. But one thing you mentioned was the Mastermind Group, which is a group of some of the most high-level owners in the brand. And it's a reoccurring. So we have a Zoom call every Thursday. And then we also have a couple of different meetups, which is hence why you're here in California this week, and why we got to shoot this awesome episode. Talk me through a little bit about your experience kind of through Mastermind, and kind of some of the things that you've taken away from it, like just being around other owners and kind of like the relationships and things you built with those other owners.
All right, let me just jump back to you asked how I found my team, where, my instrumental integrator, who's also my girlfriend, Melody, how she came about to working for me. I think that's important to see, is that she was working in a hospital environment where it's a lot of bureaucratic, paperwork and stuff like that, and was feeling like underappreciated. So one day I was walking her to her car to go to work, and she was just like I said, what's the matter? She goes, sometimes I feel like this job takes my soul. It sucks my soul. I said, listen, you don't have to do this anymore. Like, you can come work for me, be on the team. And, she's been very instrumental in developing herself as a leader, as well as, she's our event coordinator, and she puts integrator, which, as you know, with the EOS accountability chart, she has a big role in, again, keeping those bumpers on the lanes and keeping us flying straight. So I just wanted to mention that was another way. I found her unsatisfied with her job, so I decided to take her on. So anyway, back to the Mastermind. That's been instrumental, because Fit Body owners, what I can see, are kind of like our members, right? Some of them are doing the thing and getting the results, where others are just kind of checking the box, so to say. And I'm not, trying to point the finger at anybody or anybody in particular, but the members that read my emails, the members that log their food, the members that drink the water, the members that do the thing are the ones getting the results, and the other ones that aren't, right? So when the Mastermind, I know it's a hefty fee to belong to the Mastermind, but that puts you in that category of elite owners that are, the more you pay attention, right? That's kind of a cliche term, but it really has some meaning to it, because being in the Mastermind, if you're paying that fee and you're not doing what the Mastermind lays out and implements for us, then why are you doing it, right? So, it's the same thing with our members, right? It's like you're paying for not the cheapest gym on the block, right? You can go to I don't even know, like $19, $29 a month or something like that for these big box gyms. And if you're just going to go in and rent access to equipment and not follow the protocol, then you're not going to see the results. So the Mastermind puts us owners at the level of those clients that are doing the thing, and they're getting the results, and we feed off each other, right? So, I have several conversations a week with other masterminders that are in the game. And, I also talk to non-mastermind owners as well to try to help them out. And then that's always my recommendations. Just join the mastermind, man. Everything I can tell you, I can't tell you enough in a 20-minute phone call that you can get from the mastermind. So
100%. No, and I think that's a really good thing to mention, is just in terms of business ownership, especially when you're in a franchise model. So you don't join a franchise to do your own thing. So somebody's not going to buy a Starbucks to create their own coffee inventions and have all these wacky, crazy coffee drinks and stuff. No, you get the Starbucks because you're going to serve the Frappuccinos, the Macchiatos, all the regular stuff that Starbucks has to offer. And yeah, it's just the truth. And what I always try to push owners to do is like, hey, all these really successful owners have a blueprint. We've given out the blueprint. FitBody does an amazing job of having different resources, different trainings. So pretty much anything like you could ever have a question about, like we have a resource for it almost now. And we keep cranking them out, which I think is really good. And I think that's kind of true. What you said is like, yeah, just don't go off and try to do your own thing. Like just follow the model. Like it's a tried and proven model, which I think is really important.
And even if you're not at the level of the mastermind, like there's still owners that don't follow the processes of FitBody Bootcamp. I mean, some still don't do the workout of the day. And why would you not do that? Because it's so cut and dry and like, and that's the whole reason I bought a franchise, because if I would have opened Matt's gym back in 2014, I'm 99.9% sure that I would not be in business right now. I knew nothing about marketing, funnels, all this other stuff. So the whole reason I took faith into buying a franchise is that they were going to help guide me through this. And, again, even though we've evolved so much in the 10 years as a brand, even back then, they gave us enough resources to survive. All you had to do was use them, right? And that's the thing where a lot of people don't even use the resources, and those are the ones that, I mean, I don't see, like, hear the complaints and stuff, but I'm pretty sure that I can bet on the ones that are complaining the most about not seeing results are the ones that are not using the resources. So that was, like, the big reason why I bought into a brand, into a franchise, because, even when my 5-year contract was up, I said, do I need this anymore? Like my first 5 years, I was like, do I still need, and I started to do the math as to what it would cost me for a marketing agency and all these different things. I'm like, it's such a value to be part of, what we pay for franchise fees to be able to do it on your own. It's such a contrast in value that I would have been a fool not to, which obviously I didn't. So
yeah, no, that's totally true. You hit the nail right on the head for sure. Shifting gears just a little bit, we've talked a lot about some of the positives and some of the awesome things. Let's go the opposite direction and talk about like what are some of the things that you've struggled with over the years. So what have been some of the hardships? Have you ever had to have any like really hard conversations with coaches or with clients or anything like that? So give us the bad side. As we know, like business ownership isn't just sunshine and rainbows.
No, because you try to hire a coach and you realize you get a whole person. I think I stole that from Mike Zakarian. I think years ago he said that. He goes, I want to hire some coaches, and I realized I'm stuck with a whole person and personalities and stuff like that. So, my coaching staff is 3 years young, and as good as my team is, they've only been with me for about 3 years now. But before that, again, you live and learn, right? What you thought was a good coach back then, maybe they were good technical coaches with it, but they weren't good team players, right? And they weren't respectful. And, I attribute a lot of it to my leadership has evolved quite a bit. I was a reactive leader. I was, I didn't have the skills that I have today as a leader. So part of me being a better leader and part of me being able to vet and kind of sniff out what would be a good fit in my community has helped avoid the, because again, I've had some coaches that would, looking back, like they were very disrespectful of the rules and the policies I had in place. And, they just came in, punched the clock and left. They didn't give that extra, where my team comes in and they work out. And if somebody needs something, they jump behind the desk. I don't expect that. I don't ask that of them. And they just do it, right? Where in the past, like, if I asked a team member, to help me out with something, like, oh, am I going to get paid for it? So there was no real buy-in. And again, I attribute that a lot to the way I hired and to the way I led. And, now things are a little bit differently. So, and another big thing, as you mentioned earlier, is COVID, right? Going through COVID, that was not a fun time in the gym. Like, again, not knowing what to do and having to lean on the franchise to help us get through COVID was huge as well. So totally. Those are the two things. Again, signing that lease, I've never signed a lease it was over $4,000 at the time, right? So, my hand's shaking. I'm like getting on the hook for, 5 years for $5,000 a month. And, I knew I had to make this thing work. So, yeah, that was kind of a scary part. And I haven't had a whole lot of, adversity. Again, like I said, there were team members that came and they went, and, things that went on behind my back that I didn't see. But, moving forward, it was kind of the pain enables us to learn, right? So.
Yeah, well, to flip the script now, so that's kind of some of the things you struggle with over the past, which luckily doesn't sound like it's been a whole heck of a lot. What's your favorite thing about being a FitBody Bootcamp owner? So, like, what's the best part about being a part of the brand and being a FitBody owner?
I would say the network, man. It's just the networking. It's I never miss an event. Right? I go to World Conference and. the worst, I think Martin Rooney quoted, the worst thing you could say is I know that already. And I know a lot, but it's always like every time I go to an event, I sharpen the sword, right? So an old analogy is like if you had to chop down an oak tree, right, and you had 3 hours to do it, you should spend 2 hours sharpening the axe, right? So it's the network, it's the people, it's, running into guys like you all the time at these events, and, it just fires me up, man. It's just I love my network, I love my people, and they say your network is your net worth, right? So
took the words right out of my mouth.
So that's probably my favorite part. I mean, a gym's a gym, fitness is fitness, equipment's equipment. It's the people that make it exciting.
Yeah, totally. And like I always like to say, live events change lives, and FitBody does a really awesome job of throwing those live events as often as we can. So I'm really, really happy to hear that you've been getting a lot of value out of those. So to kind of wrap this thing up, so I'm curious to get some advice from you. So thinking of the audience member that's sitting at home, they're on the fence about opening a fitness business. They're on the fence of maybe picking FitBody, maybe picking a different, franchise model or something like that. What's some advice that you would give that person that's kind of on the fence and kind of wants to do it but isn't sure yet?
Get off the fence and just open a FitBody, man. It's like, it's and I'm not just saying that. I know of other people that have worked for other franchises, and there's no gym franchise anyway, that provides the support that FitBody does. And I've heard it firsthand from other owners of other franchises. I'm not going to mention any names. I waited a really long time to take that leap. I mean, again, I opened my business at 46 years old. I've been a personal trainer since I was like 24 years old. So there was a long time of me wait. But, I was rolling, I was making money, I was hustling, I was, training a lot of people because I was a good coach at it. And I was always, there was this dude that was the manager of the Gold's Gym, and he always used to say, hey, man, we got to do something on our own. We got to do something on our own. And we said that for years and years and years and years and years, and we just kept putting it off. And finally, what made me make that move was I had, worked as a personal trainer, saved up a bunch of money. I was flipping houses and making some decent money in the real estate market, and, kind of was pulling back a little bit from the personal training. Then the, housing market crashed, and I my chips were all in, and all my money was tied up in projects, and I just watched it spiral out of control, and I almost went bankrupt. And that's when I said, all right, it's time for me to go to California and either figure something out and stay there, just plant my seed there, or come back. And when I saw FitBody Bootcamp, I said, this is it. I mean, at the time, I'm not going to say how much it was because new owners will will cringe, when they hear it. But at the time, I was like, man, this is affordable, this is doable, and this is my last chance, because it's either this or I'm going to run out of money. And I still did go back to construction, and it's nice to have that skill to always fall back on. During COVID, I was doing some tile backsplashes while the gym was closed. But I didn't want to, do construction my whole life. I still have all my fingers, right? So most construction guys don't. So I said, this is got to work for me, and I got to make this work. And, I wish I would have done it sooner, but then who knows? FitBody wasn't where it was even when I bought in. So, everything happens for a reason, and you are right where your feet are supposed to. Your feet are right where you're supposed to be. So, my advice to other people on the fence is just, take that leap of faith. FitBody's there for you. They're never going to let you. Again, it's up to you to pass or fail, but they're not going to just let you, sink without throwing you a life preserver. So I know FitBody is the way to go.
Boom. Couldn't have said it better myself. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time sitting down with us today.
Hey, thank you for
got a
having
lot
me.
of great insights. Really appreciate it. Friends at home, thank you guys so much for watching the episode, and we look forward to seeing you at the next episode of FitBody Inside Look.